Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Friedman Adventures. It's always great to be with you all. And I would ask you for a big favor before we get started today. And that is hit the subscribe button while you're sitting there on YouTube, not doing anything. And hit that little bell so you'll be notified every single time we put out a new show. Also, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if freshwater fishing is your thing, then you'll want to follow my two boys, Philip and Patrick at Bass Bros. They're also there on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe there, hit that little bell, and you can follow them on Instagram and Facebook also. All right, we've got a great show for you today, Valerie and Tom. So nice to welcome you both here.
Thanks for having us here.
Yeah, now you guys are saltwater experts, so for everybody out there listening, we're going to get into what makes them successful in terms of saltwater bass fishing, because we've got all kinds of people out there trying to learn, private boaters, people that go on a sport boat, and there's certain things that everyone can learn and pick up on. But first, Valerie, I want to start with you.
Okay.
How is it being in this male-dominated sport? You're a female in this male-dominated sport. Have you ever run into any problems? Do you enjoy it or what?
I'm used to it. I mean, when I started fishing, there were hardly any women that fished at all.
So when did you start?
Oh, well, when I traveled on the road, I fished cross country. I lived in Florida for a while and really got hooked on saltwater fishing.
How many years ago? How long have you been fishing?
Oh, probably since 70, 74,
wow,
76.
so a while. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you started, there was very few women.
I lived in Florida for a while, and I really got hooked on it. And then I came back to California, and I was hopping on all those sport boats, the Freelance, the Western Pride, going up the Sierras, doing freshwater bass fishing. And I just fell in love with it.
How did you get hooked on fishing? Who was it? Your father, mother, or who was it?
Well, early on, I mean, I grew up in Long Beach.
Yeah.
Right here on Ocean Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would walk down to Belmont Pier and buy a scoop of anchovies and fish all day.
You just went by yourself?
If I wasn't on the beach playing, I'd be fishing. So that's where you'd find me.
So there was nobody in particular? You just went down to the pier and started fishing?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Uncle Mac?
My Uncle Mac, actually, when I went up to visit my grandmother and had to spend summers with her, my Uncle Mac, I hated him for waking me up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but
right.
That's part of the game. But
yeah, exactly.
He would take me out to the river, and I'd go fishing with him. But little kids, you aren't really interested. You're distracted by wanting to play in the dirt, throw rocks in the water, and all the above. So, but I really got hooked on fishing when I lived in Florida.
Yeah.
I was fishing the Gulf, catching grouper, snapper, all that. And in my travels, I actually bought myself a collapsible rod. And wherever I was spending time, I'd fish wherever I could find it.
Is that around the world that you've been fishing?
No, just nationally.
In the United States?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And my music took me on the road for a while.
Well, that begs the question, what do you mean your music?
My music? Well, yeah. I grew up playing guitar. I started playing guitar when I was 12. And I just was in the Civic Light Opera in Long Beach.
Really?
The King and I, yeah.
You should have brought your guitar with you.
She's a real pro.
Yeah.
My mother was an entertainer, so I got her genes. And I just loved music. I got my first singing gig here in Long Beach when I was 15. I got a job singing at a Shakey's.
Wow.
And then I sang at the Big John's back in, I got my first singing job when I was 17. So,
boy, you hit the jackpot with this.
I'm a lucky man.
My first travel road was when my mom took me up to Hollywood. I played for a big guy sitting behind a desk, played a couple songs, and he's smoking his cigar, the whole thing, and holds up his hand halfway through my first song. And he says, "How soon can you go to Chicago and join this group?" I went.
And how old were you?
I was 19.
Wow. Did you go?
Oh, of course.
Wow.
It was strange because my first time away from home.
Yeah, sure.
But, that went on for 13 years. I mean, I traveled. I ended up in Florida. I had my own show. I played guitar and bass and sang and entertained. With the costumes, I had a sound and light.
What do you play? Do you play all variety of different types of music? Or
yep. Basically. I mean, I started out with folk, and then I joined a bluegrass band and was doing some flat picking and, and then was doing top 40 and show songs.
What's more important to you, fishing or your music, or is it a tie?
Well, I haven't really picked up my guitar that often because, of course, obviously fishing, got in the way.
Yeah.
It was music, golfing, and fishing. And I was torn between all three, and so I ended up kind of narrowing it down, and now it's
Got rid of the golf?
got rid of the golf. I couldn't, I had to split my weekends, and so I couldn't do that anymore.
Tom, something tells me you two probably met with something with fishing involved. Does that have anything to do with it?
Absolutely. I had a boat and I was fishing by myself regularly. And my boss,
A lonely existence, right? Yes.
nobody to lie to. And so her boss and my boss are husband and wife, and she was whining one day about needing a fishing fix, and it was one of those things, well, we have a friend with a boat. Yeah. And they called me, and I went, yeah, sure, okay. Let's get together.
But can she really fish? He thought I was a woman trying to find a man.
Right.
Yeah.
Man hunting.
Yeah.
So we both played hooky on a Friday, went to Dana Point, went out and fished some kelp patties, caught some fish, and on the way back in, it was almost dark, and there were bonito right in front of the point, and she wouldn't leave the water. I mean, she was just absolutely...
Just one more. I kept saying, just one more.
I've heard that before.
And there's no issues with tying knots and touching bait and da-da-da-da-da. She does it all.
Because I was already fishing quite a bit.
Yeah, right.
She buys her own secret weapons, and sometimes I can't even see them until tournament day.
I love it. Oh, so you're in competition with one another.
Well, we used to have a $1
team.
bet when we first started fishing. We'd have
Yeah.
$1 bets who would catch the biggest fish. But, after when we first met, I mean, I really got my hooks into doing when I would clean the fish and cook the fish. I was like, I'm done.
She does all?
How long did it take before you guys got married after that date? That first date?
I'm going to let him
You're
remember.
You're going to get in trouble here, Tom.
I'd say about 6 or 7 years.
7 years.
Oh,
7 years.
good answer.
7 years.
You were in the ballpark.
And we got married in Newport
Yeah.
on one.
Do you remember the date
on
that
the-
that first date took place? What day? Of the,
It was
the
on a
month?
Friday.
I do.
And she did.
Oh, okay. What was it?
I don't know.
Valerie?
Friday, 1990.
August 1990, August 12th.
See, there you go.
Look
Yeah,
at that. Yes.
And
Actually, I was
have
on my
not
way
stopped.
to an audition. I was thinking about getting back into my music.
Yeah.
And I had been working some corporate jobs and everything, and just happened to be right around the corner
right,
from his
right
house.
1 block from my house, right?
Literally, no, I'm not lying. I mean,
It
so
was.
that's.
It was.
Nothing says love and bloom like
It
a
was
Homer
great.
Benito.
And I stepped out of my car with hair out to here, and I pulled my guitar out and I serenaded him and had a Corona, and that was history.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's a
what we have.
lovely meeting you guys
We
had.
haven't stopped. That's correct.
Yes. And you enjoy fishing together? I mean, is there ever a time when you get on each other's nerves? Does anybody be
Well-
honest now? Come on.
Well,
You've
yeah,
been
it
married how long?
happens.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's
How
not-
long have you been married?
30.
No, next year, or no.
25.
Yeah, next year it'll be 25 years.
25.
Oh, 25. Feels like 30. Just
We-
kidding, Tom.
we
I
fished-
don't want to get you in trouble.
We fish differently. She fishes more slowly than I do. I'm kind of a power guy, and so I've got in my mind we need to hit this and do this, and she always says slow down. If there's ever an issue on a boat, would you just slow down?
So it sounds like a nice, you compliment each other.
Yes.
He
One's
doesn't.
trying to go too
He
fast.
doesn't really. I like working the grid. I like really working, especially if it's cold waters and you need to fish slower and figure out where these fish are. And he's 2 seconds here. Let's move. Sometimes that fast fishing and trying to probe for the fish where they are is good, but half the time I think that we're fishing.
Well, here is our
fishing.
first tip of the day. So you like to focus in on an area. You said especially when it's cold. Why so?
Well, slower fish are slower, sluggish,
Yeah.
and they're more tend to hang in structure and all the above and not move so much.
Yes.
And so I believe, you could cast bait in front of their face and pass it by their face 10 times before they may even strike at it
Yeah.
or want it. So, if you only give it 1 or 2 times and you're off to another place, they were just starting to get lathered up.
Yeah. And especially artificials, right? They just do not like to bite them when it's cold, do
That
they?
is correct.
If we fish bait, no problem.
Yeah,
but in
right.
our tournaments, we can't fish bait.
Correct.
So we can't even use cut bait or anything. Fish scent is allowed, but strictly artificials.
Tom,
Yes.
Valerie makes a very good point about staying and fishing. It's cold. Those fish are lethargic. It takes a while to work them up. Your defense for moving quickly.
Well, I have established a game plan. The story is they say Tom drives a boat, Val catches a fish.
Not always.
I have a plan. We always have a plan, and we agree on it. We're going to go south, or we're going to go north. We're going to do this, do that. Well, in my mind, I have 10 steps of places that I want to hit during the period.
Yeah.
And if we're going slow and we're not getting bit, I'm ready to say, we got to move.
Let's get out.
We got to move.
Yeah.
And then she does the same thing at times when I'm sitting there stuck. And I'm not going to say old school, but I'm a guy that has 10 baits that work, have always worked, and I use it that way. She'll bring out stuff that I've never seen because she's online looking at what people are using. For instance, I haven't fished any underspins recently. Underspins, people are catching fish on underspins a lot. That little flashy willow leaf is really working.
Yes.
For all the species.
Yes.
So
you're talking about bass, saltwater bass.
Saltwater bass only.
Spotted bay bass, sand bass, calico bass.
Yep.
And A-rigs, I was the first one to use A-rigs.
Really?
And then he saw me catching a lot of fish with it, and he started becoming an A-rig believer too. So, there are a lot of things that I like to try, try new baits. But I also like old school.
Yeah.
Baits.
Are you bringing those things from freshwater to saltwater or from Florida to California?
A lot of the freshwater techniques do work in saltwater.
Like what? Give me one.
Spinner baits, chatter baits, all those things.
Crankbaits?
Crankbaits. They work in saltwater. I mean, to me, a bass is a bass. They're going to attack or
in a similar way, right?
In a similar way.
Yeah.
So why would you go really off in left field and do something totally different than a fish would think? I mean, so.
And spotted bay bass, that's a spectacular species.
It's my favorite fish.
You guys have fished. We're at 22nd Street Landing. Right out the door here. Have you fished spotted bay bass?
Right out front, on the west side. There's a bunch of docks in there, and 3 docks in. It's a place.
Really?
Yes.
Try to fish the pilings and everything that are established.
Spotties
I think
are our favorite
a
thing
few
to
years
catch.
ago, when they first put in the new marina, we didn't come here at all because the pilings were new. There wasn't any growth on it, so therefore there would be no fish.
Yes.
In our mind.
Correct.
So now they're established. We may come in here and boogie around a little bit.
What's the best time to fish for spotted bay bass? Either one of you two can take that. Daytime, nighttime? Is it tide? Do you factor in the high tide? Any of that important?
There are a lot of variables involved. I mean, basically fish bite, right at dawn and at dusk. I mean, basically the tidal movements are important. High tide, rising tide, an hour and a half before rising tide, an hour and a half after, on a falling tide. Exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of that applies. I mean, but if you're fishing in bays where the water can get really low, then you would think, especially on a hot day, you're thinking the fish doesn't want to sit in hot water and shallow water. So, of course, they're going to move out. So we're always thinking about, if I were a fish, where would they be?
Yes.
What would they like to eat? Look for feeding bait and try to always, everyone says, match a hatch. I mean,
some of the younger guys that walk the docks will fish at night. And
that's the best time to fish.
Seems to be the largest fish are caught at night. In fact, there was a young guy in San Diego that has a post a while back, or maybe an article. He walks the docks around Shelter Island and fishes 65-pound braid straight up and down on pilings at night with 7 and 8 inch baits only. We're not talking 3-inch curly tail grass.
Big baits.
And he catches giant fish.
They'll eat a bait that's almost as big as they are.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
If those guys got to be 20 pounds, that would be the
best
sport fish in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
But speaking of fishing at night, we do have an SBS Saltwater Bass Series tournament coming up on April 10th. It's a night tournament. So be curious to see what's going to be, the sand bass, the spotted bay bass.
Have you had a night tournament before, or is this the first one?
Oh, yeah.
It's the first one for this year. We fished them before when they had the wallbanger tournaments years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the wallbanger tournaments? Did you fish those?
I didn't, but I was well aware of those. Yeah, that's fun fishing out
big
there.
bags, big calicos off that wall.
Are you talking about the wall out here?
Yeah.
Long Beach? Yeah.
Yeah.
Long Beach
is some big bass.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
They're kind of hard to find now. There's a lot of pressure that's put on that wall. A lot of people have come savvy to the wall and what you can find on that wall, the time of days and the tides and everything. And so it wasn't like it used to be. I mean, when we first started fishing, when we first started fishing the tournaments and everything, it was a big learning curve for us because we were basically strictly bait, anglers. We used bait.
Right.
And then for us to start using artificials and plastic and and Benny and all those guys were trying to help us out. And
Yeah.
Here, try this.
Oh,
Here, try this. Benny gave us one of his favorite lead heads,
Oh, my God.
that he hand painted. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, heck
But
yeah.
they all kind of took us under their wing and showed us the ropes and everything. And in turn, we want to do the same for anglers that are coming on board now with these tournaments and teaching them, or even on our fishing club charters that we have.
Yeah.
People that join our club because they want to learn how to fish. I just posted something. There was a gal that didn't know anything about fishing. She joined our club. Took her under my wing. I showed her how to tie knots, tackle. She didn't even have the right tackle or a fishing rod. Gave her suggestions what she needed to get. And she just won an award last week at our club meeting.
Oh, how great!
Yeah.
You must feel very satisfied
Oh,
after that,
it
right?
was. It was.
Yeah.
It was the best. It was so rewarding for me to see
that's
her.
what we're
She
doing
was
right
just beaming.
That's what we're doing today on this podcast. You guys are teaching people how to get involved in these tournaments. Do you find that the tournaments are really highly competitive?
Without a doubt.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
That's saying it lightly. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Very competitive.
And we're fishing with the best, bass anglers in Southern California.
Like Benny Florentino.
Benny Decker,
Jimmy
all
Decker.
of them,
Yeah,
all
all
of them,
of those guys are all there. Eric's
and we even
there.
fished with Dave Dodge, you just had him on your
Yeah, Dave's
podcast,
a great guy.
and he fished with Gardner. Gardner was fishing with us, and,
Mike.
We fish
you
with
know,
Mike
and
often.
it was a great group. The camaraderie was really special.
Mike-
But
not
still
only getting out there,
competitive.
but still competitive.
yeah.
When you get on that boat, man, the game face came on, and you're
Still
really,
now today.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's all in all, we're all friends. We have a good time before and after.
Yeah,
the
but you wanna
tournament,
win.
But it's very competitive.
The weigh-ins
And,
are
he's-
always so interesting. The people will say what they caught him on, if you can believe it. What they caught him on, blah blah
And
blah. Where
does
did they
anybody
go?
tell the truth?
I
What do you think?
I think some do.
Do
but-
you?
Mostly. I mean, no secret weapons, and a particular rock pile somewhere or something like that. But
Do you tell the truth?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I try to.
All right. I don't. Do I have to have Steve run in here with a lie detector? No. We'll find out really what it is. So, what is the best lure that you can think of? Let's go back to spotted bay bass
Yes.
for a moment. What do you like to fish spotted bay bass with? Valerie and then Tom.
Well, it depends on the conditions.
Okay.
I mean, warm water, when the fish are more active, then we're fishing faster. Crankbaits.
So right now, when this show airs, we're going to be kind of in warm water. So let's talk about that because somebody's listening and they want to go catch a spotted bay bass in warm water. What would you use?
Well, basically, you can never go wrong with swim bait. A-rigs are. I love using A-rigs. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, it's a whole bait ball swimming around.
Yeah.
It's a whole banquet, buffet swimming right by their face.
Yeah, right?
I mean, why wouldn't you use that? And depending if the water's cold, then you would use more like spinner baits and chatter baits and things that cause a little bit more vibration in the water.
Yeah.
The water clarity, you have to look at the water, the water temp, how you would fish it, fast or slow. The water clarity, if it's murky, then you want to go with brighter colors so they can see it, in early morning, darker colors. I mean, that's pretty much standard. I mean, people that want to know darker colors in the morning, more natural.
And Tom, how about
colors.
the retrieve on that?
Well,
is it fast? Is it slow? What is it?
I personally, I like crankbaits, and I like spinner baits, and I like A-rigs, and I have reels that are like a 5-to-1 retrieve.
Yeah. Do you have a preferred reel? Don't be afraid to mention tackle.
We use primarily Shimano Curados,
Uh-huh.
and recently we've just gotten some of the Daiwa Lexus.
Yeah.
And I think for those sorts of presentations, you would like a slow retrieve. You don't see. For me, I have to slow down, so I don't need a super fast. Now I use a high speed retrieve if I'm fishing right on a piling and I am bit in the shade on the back. That fish has to come out of there instantly, and that is the high speed.
Yes.
But in general, like fishing over eelgrass in Mission Bay is a fun place to learn.
Yes.
There's a ton of eelgrass, and you just literally have to have something that either skirts over the top or drops down into the eelgrass, or anything with a little flashy, like I would call a little willow leaf or a little underspin. They just eat it. But cold water, crystal clear days when we look at it and go, oh boy, is it going to be great. It's the worst.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Too
It's-
cold?
It's too cold and it's too clear. I mean, they can see us. and things that I've learned from Corey Sandin. MC Swim Baits is one of our sponsors. He fishes 80-pound braid for calicos, and he talks about, I always fish dark green braid or darker line. He goes, when the fish are looking up during the day and the sun is shining, they're looking up, it's light. Use white braid. And I look at white braid and go, oh my God, everything in the world can see it.
Yeah.
But for some instances, it's the thing to use. Daiwa's making a braid that we use now called a J Braid Grand. And there's one called Early Gray Light. It's called Gray Light. It's an 8-carrier braid. It's nice and smooth, no noise in the guides, none of the above. Seems to be perfect for all conditions.
Wow. Spotted bay bass, it's kind of like the common man's bass in that you can walk the docks and catch these things, or jetties or rocks. Or I mean, for calico bass, it's a little more difficult. But
Absolutely.
God, anybody can go catch those spotted bay bass. And like you said, if they pound for pound grew to be 30 pounds, you have your hands full.
Yeah.
Newport and Huntington Harbor used to be loaded with big fish. Newport dredged about 6 or 7 years ago, and that silting issue
Screwed it up.
killed the eelgrass, and they're in the process of trying to replant.
We really haven't seen that fishery
but
recover.
that fishery
for,
never
since then.
rebounded from that dredging.
Yeah. Mission Bay is the best place.
Mission Bay is just a fun place to go. There's on a weekend there are some fishing areas that are full of jet skis and watercraft, you name it, but you can get into quiet places, and there's a ton of eelgrass and a ton of spotties in there, and it's fun if you want to even say fish. I personally would fish 20-pound braid in Mission Bay for tournaments. You just want to go in there and fish 10 or 12-pound on a light rod and reel. And
Which we do.
4-inch swim baits or little grubs, or they eat it. It's just a fun place.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So Mission Bay, we got that dialed in. That's the best spot. Now, let's move to calico bass fishing. You got to love calico bass fishing.
You
There's
do.
something
Yeah.
magical about it, Valerie.
Yeah, they're a little bit more hard to find. I mean, basically,
Right.
You really have to hunt those down. If we're fishing the wall, you have to look for the conditions on the wall, the current, if it's ripping uphill or all the above. Sometimes one of my best fishing times for calico was fishing on the wall when we had those surging swells.
Yeah.
Because what was happening is that when the swell would surge up at the top of the rocks and wash back down, the fish are down there looking for things that wash off the
Sure.
rocks.
Yeah.
And so you're looking your bait, your tackle bag, looking for colors that, crab colors and things like crustaceans that they could key in on when they're down there looking for
You're
food.
talking about matching the hatch for the anglers out there. How important is that?
I think it's very important. But then again, they say, use something they haven't seen before. It's really hard to say. I mean, I've used some really, you see people, especially on sport boats, you see people use the weirdest lure and they catch the biggest fish or something.
Yeah,
You go,
how many times have you seen that?
what? Go figure. And so it's kind of a...
For instance, crankbaits. Match the hatch. People throw chartreuse crankbaits. That doesn't match anything. It just shows up in dirty or stained water.
Yeah.
Or bright orange. Maybe it looks like a crab. But mind you, fishing the wall, like we have for many, many years, we're in a little skiff and we're fishing and have fished when the swell is going over the top and we're on the outside. It's very dangerous.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have
But
to
fishing-
have a troll motor. You have to maybe keep your main engine running and be very wary that there's sometimes boa kelp and stuff that can get tangled on your props. And you're right there. You're 15, 20 feet from the rocks, and be careful. So,
Tom and Valerie.
Yes.
So my story is, anytime I get behind the wheel of a boat, everybody should put their life jackets on. My kids and I went out, and it was blowing 25.
Ooh.
And we were setting lobster traps off Redondo, outside the breakwall.
Yep.
Right?
Right?
Yep.
We sucked in a rope
Yes.
as a prop.
Yep.
Always.
And we are 100 yards off the wall, and we're going toward the wall. So I yelled at Philip, get up there and drop the anchor. These kids are like
Absolutely.
young. Put your life jackets on. So if somebody has this 911 call, I said please help me. Ah! So I'm like, we are going on the rocks, and so we're getting so close to the rocks. There was some Mexican guys fishing up there, and Patrick's like, hey, can you guys help us?
What are they going to do?
Yeah, what are they going to do? They're trying to catch.
yeah.
And literally, the harbor patrol got out there and threw us a rope a minute before we would have been on the rocks in those heavy seas, and it's no joke.
Thank God they were Johnny on the
Yeah,
spot.
it
I
is.
mean, that could happen so quickly.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. Well, part of it had to do with me, the shrill over, help! Wasn't shy about what was going on.
I was by myself one night fishing hook netting in front of the Long Beach wall.
Yeah.
And it's not as deep there as it is on the federal wall. And I had my weight and everything, and the length of the line was set for 60 feet. Well, it's only 35 feet deep. And so I set these guys and ran around, and of course it's dark. Well, it didn't dawn on me that upper 25 feet was going to be floating around because it wasn't being stretched. You need to pretty much match your length with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I did exactly the same thing. And and it was in the main engine prop, and I carry a knife and I cut it and got away. But without a troll motor, I mean, you're stuck. I had an engine breakdown in front one time.
Jeez, I know.
So that's a great fishery, but it's a place that deserves respect.
Safety first, right?
Yeah.
And we just had this show here recently with a girl who lost her whole family, and Mark and Paul saved her. So, I mean, that is a reminder to all of us.
Absolutely.
And this nonsense that I do all the time. Like I say, if I get behind the wheel, run the other way. Patrick, my youngest son, he's like, if you have anything to do with running the boat, I'm out. There's been several instances where it's been dicey. So,
well, these tournaments require us to wear a PFD.
yeah.
I mean,
anytime we're running, we have to.
Running, you got to wear a PFD, and so we typically, I'll keep mine on. See, she'll take hers off once in a while. I'll keep mine on. If I'm anywhere near the wall, I'll just keep it on. I mean, I can swim, and I can swim well, but I don't want to get dashed on the rocks if I can help it. We're careful, man.
Do you also insist that he doubles his life insurance when he goes out on a lone trip or anything like that, Valerie?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear.
She'll get salvage rights on the boat.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can cash in big time on this thing. So, how do people get into these tournaments? If there's private boaters out there who are listening right now and they're like, man, this sounds like fun. I'd like to do this with my wife or my brother or whatever. How do they get involved in it?
It's basically open to anybody that wants to get into these tournaments. But if you really want to fish and then go to the championships, I mean, you really have to fish the whole series. And we normally, with SBS, we have 6 tournaments a year that start in January, and we have our championships in June. And through that process, each tournament, you gain points with your weight. They give you point scale scoring that you accrue points, and then it will determine your total score at the end of the year and where you stand. And so if you're looking for the long run at these tournaments, then you need to start at the beginning of the season and do the whole series. But anybody, we have one couple that comes in and fishes 1 or 2 tournaments because they know that they're good at what that tournament is doing
in
that
those
day.
geographical areas.
In San Diego,
That's
basically,
true.
and they've done well, but then they don't fish any other tournaments. So if anybody just wants to come out for the day and fish, they're more than welcome. You just go online to Saltwater Bass Series. It'll give you all the instructions. There's a menu that you can drop down menu and click on their schedule and see what there is lined up for the remainder of the year, how to register, send send in your fee and all the above. You do need insurance. Fill out a form,
Proof
a
of
waiver.
insurance for the boat.
Yeah.
and
Is it
things like
expensive? I mean, how much is it?
No, we have 2 divisions now. Okay, we have a master's division,
Right.
Yeah.
all in, which would be your entry fee, your side pot for the big fish, and for the big bass is $250. If you come in as a rookie family division, a guy and his kid or husband and his wife, whatever, their fee is like $100 and something. So at the end of the day, they have their own set of prizes and their own payouts based on how many people, and we have a different set.
Yeah.
So it's a little. So and there's nothing that says that you couldn't be a master's right off the bat if you want to go ahead and.
You can just do that, right? If you want to, if you
Yeah.
opt to do that.
Yeah, you could go into the.
Figure out maybe I'll get lucky or.
Well, yeah, if you don't mind spend that little bit of money. So I lost my train of thought. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So when you get involved in this, is there any kind of a learning? Is there anybody to tutor you along? Like if you're new at this, or do you need to do that ahead of time? Like listen to podcasts like this and watch YouTube videos?
Well, we want to thank you for your podcast because you keep the anglers well informed,
Thank
you know,
you.
with putting the
I can
information
see
out
my
there.
check arrived in the mail
Yeah,
to you to say nice
exactly.
things about me. Thank you.
But, you know, anybody's willing, if you ask questions, I mean, everybody's willing to help as long as you know to ask questions and what you really want to target and the information you need.
So how much? What do you win? What are the side pots like, and what are the prizes? If you win the whole thing, what do you get?
If you win an individual tournament,
Yeah.
depends on how many people are in it. It could be $2,500. If
That's
you
not bad.
catch the biggest fish, it could be another $400 or $500. If you have the biggest bag, it could be another. So if you win the tournament and have the biggest bag, yeah, you could walk away with $3,000.
It depends on how many people are
So,
in the
yeah.
tournament that have paid
Yeah,
into the
right.
tournament. That it varies depending on what the
But
total prize is,
$3,000's not
cash
bad for a
payouts.
day's
yeah.
work. Huh?
And, you know, Jerry normally pays, you know, 7 to 10 places down.
Yeah, it pays down.
You know.
So that your expenses are covered on
Yeah.
the way down.
Have you guys won before?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Quite a
Not
few.
often, but we have.
oh my
Yeah.
goodness, we came in second in Newport one time by 0.03 of a pound.
Oh,
We
we beat
missed-
you that day. Jimmy Duggar?
No,
No.
somebody.
Carl and Josh. Carl
and Jo-
Erbacher and
Yeah.
Josh Dunlop.
And then
Oh, that's razor thin.
Dana Point. We
That's
came in
like 2 drops of
second
water,
by
right?
Yeah.
1,700s at Dana Point.
Jeez.
Well, but so the grand for us, we have made the finale, which is enough points to make the championship, almost every year, and we've done this for 15 years. We're not in the top echelon, but we're dangerous, and we're kind of always in the middle. We get in there. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
So a few years ago, when SW Bay was still running, it was a 2-day tournament on the championship. Outside was sandbass and calicos, or spotties. But on Sunday, they said, we'll give you 2.5 times the weight for spotties if you want to weigh. So you run the calculation. If I catch 10 pounds, that's 25. So we did it. We fished for spotties, and lo and behold, we ended up with almost exactly 10 pounds. And I'll never forget,
Wow.
we went and weighed it in early, and they have a big digital scale, and we were in there clearing up the boat, and we heard the guys come in, you know, and they were weighing their fish, and they looked at the thing and they said, 24.96. Who is that? And he's a Tom and Val, and you could hear him mumble like
Mom and Pop won.
those dogs, you know. So
It was a great year for us. It was fun.
so yeah, we do still enjoy it. Absolutely, it's fun.
What kind of boat do you have? What do you recommend to people?
Well, we have 3.
Okay, let's
I'll
take
let
them.
Tom tell you.
Okay, I'm the boat guy. I have my original 23-foot skiff I've had forever. It's got a T-top, and it's not meant for this.
But
It's
you
just
can
on the
sentimental
trailer. It's
value.
still there. It's a nice boat, and I just hate to get rid of it.
Yeah.
It's got a big Yamaha, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful. So we
Where do you keep that? At home or in a storage?
at
or
home.
okay.
We have a big yard, and we have a place to park all these toys off the street, and
Nice.
it's all works out. But we were going to Baja a lot with a aluminum flat bottom bay runner, and we ran that around a lot, and finally wore it out. And we went to a place in Anaheim called American Marine in 1995 to a seminar on catching yellowtail or something, and there was a little skiff that looked like a whaler sitting there, closeout special. And so I bought the boat flat out and had them remove the existing engine because I had a different engine I wanted to put on it. Brought it home. We're still using it. I modified it it's a 16-foot Invader. It's a reef runner.
That little boat's been down to Baja, caught marlin and Dorado.
Oh,
on it.
yeah?
We used to
Oh,
trailer
we-
that
We're
thing
going to talk about that.
4
in a second.
times down
We've
a
been-
year down to Baja. We trailer.
Love it.
Caught everything. It's a perfect inshore boat. Now, a few years back, we could fish coastal. I mean, I would run to Point Doom from Marina Del Rey or down, you name it. That little boat was fine. Well, we started having tournaments at the Channel Islands. So you go trailer to Ventura, and now you got a 25-mile run in the dark.
Ooh.
Across the channel.
In
Yeah.
the nasty channel.
Right. It gets a little windy up there.
We went a little bit more boat around.
So
you,
we
right?
Yeah.
we found an 18-foot Sea Pro. That's a 18 and a half feet. It's got more of a deep V, bigger, safer boat. And it goes fast enough that we're not always dead last on the shotgun starts.
Good.
We were always dead last in the little boat. You know?
Yeah.
Might as well just wait till everybody else leaves.
Yeah.
So this little Invader is really a really good inshore boat.
Great.
I mean, it fishes.
We actually
just
use the little Invader more than we use the Sea Pro because we can get into skinny water and
Oh,
fish
good.
tight.
Yeah.
And
Especially
the trolling
good.
motor along the wall and all the above. It's perfect for us. We love that little boat.
I'm going to come back to
Yes.
the tournament stuff, but
Yes.
you've opened the door to something that is
Mexico.
really. Oh yeah. How did you? I mean, I lived in Mexico for
Yep.
quite some time. Not quite some time. A couple of years when I was. a
And you're
young
doing wonderful
guy.
things down there too. I want to.
You know, it's all the people that donate. They're doing
Yeah.
all these great things. We have, in fact, Mike, who works at the bait receiver, lives in Rosarito Beach, and I called him last night. I said, Mike, stop by the office before you go, because he takes a bag of clothing or whatever it is we've been able to get, and he's got it all down there, and we distribute it to the poor. You know, we've done some stuff with the All Girls Orphanage down there.
Yeah.
We're going to get
That's
into your charity
wonderful,
stuff
yeah.
also, because you do a lot of stuff there. But oh my God, Mexico! I don't know where to start. The people, the food, the fishing. It's all good, isn't
all
it?
of it.
We
All
never,
of the above.
We never
Yeah.
had an issue, and I'd say we had probably 25 trips, trailer in a boat, as far as Los Barriles, which we went to a couple times.
Love it there.
And the Sea of Cortez is just like a
Magical.
fishing wonderland.
It's magical, isn't it?
It
It's so
absolutely
full of
is.
life. We
Yes.
even swam with whale sharks.
You know,
back
when you
then.
come out of that Biscayan, you make the turn to go across, and you come up, and you see the sea.
For the first time.
Oh, I'll never forget that.
It just opens up to this
Oh,
Emerald Bay with
Oh.
islands everywhere.
Oh, it's so.
I know. It's
Yeah.
like,
Right.
So yeah, we have trailer. We started going to San Quintin, and that bay mouth is kind of dangerous. And you know, we got caught in there a couple of times where we were both not real happy
we
about
had to
it.
punch through a wave one time at
Yeah,
Airborne.
so she said, no more of that. Let's
didn't
go.
like it.
We went to Bay of LA, and then we went down to Santa Rosalia, San Lucas Cove a couple times, and went to Punta Chivato and Conception Bay.
Stopped all along.
Conception's a beautiful place.
Every
isn't it?
place we
Yeah.
could
Oh, I
put a
love
boat
that
in the
place.
water.
Yeah.
Snorkel for clams.
Yeah.
You know, and all the
Chocolate
chocolates.
Fishing was good. Los Barriles was good. We put the boat in the water. It was funny. That little skiff was in the water. I've got little outriggers on it. And it was anchored out there with all the sport boats from the Mexicans. You know, it looked like, we took a picture. It was
That
this
is
little
an
rinky-dink
awesome
little...
photo, I bet.
We got a blue marlin. I got a blue marlin down there.
In that?
It was almost as big as the
I
boat.
love it. Well, yeah, I bet.
Took 'em
was
about 2
giant
hours.
on a 40-pound P line and a 1.0 mustad hook
Jeez.
on a sardina.
Oh,
with
my God.
No leader, and got this fish in an hour and 55
How big
minutes.
was it? A couple hundred pounds?
The
Or
boat
bigger?
was 16 feet long, and the fish was
like
close as to being as big as the boat.
I almost had to
maybe a
stand on the
400
outboard to
giant.
get it in
Yeah.
the frame
It was
of the
giant.
camera. I almost had to stand on the outboard to
What
take a picture.
memory.
I sat on the cooler and just turned the handle, and when the line went down, she idled forward.
I ran
love
the boat
you
for 2
guys.
hours.
Fishing
Oh, my
in that
God.
little boat, that's me too. You know, I prefer that actually. I
Then
like
he
that.
wanted to manhandle it. You know, grab the bill,
Yeah.
get my
Well, I had
leather
to get a
gloves, put it
picture.
on my hand.
You need a picture.
And as soon as he grabbed that bill, that fish was doing this,
Oh.
and all I saw was white water. He
Oh,
says, "Take a
man.
picture, take a picture." And he's doing this.
I was holding on for dear life. I thought that
awesome,
fish
Tom.
was worn out. And boy, oh
But
boy.
at the end, when it was all over, he had a tear in his T-shirt. when that
Oh,
bill
almost
came up.
got you, huh?
the bill got
And I
me.
thought,
Yeah.
we're never ever going to do that again.
Yeah, right.
But we fought that fish for 2 hours. We definitely needed pictures. You
Yeah,
know,
the
we had to
ponderos
have
kept going back and forth, and they'd come by to see if
Loco,
Oh.
I was
no,
still
loco,
looking.
loco.
Los gringos.
Right. Actually, Scott. So we really did enjoy it down there, and like I said, we really had no issues at all. I mean, not even breakdowns, but that was an ordeal. I mean, you got to have your boat ready and all your spare parts and tires and springs and you name it.
We had a
All
little
your
motorhome
rods,
that we
all
towed
your
our boat,
food.
so we lived in
We
that.
bought a little old used motorhome, so we had someplace
God,
to get
I
out of
love
the
it.
wind.
I love it.
It was great. It was
Valerie,
great.
and I think what Tom says is so important to get across to people, because every time, even now when I go to Mexico, hey, I'm going to Mexico. Oh my God, you shouldn't go to Mexico. It's really dangerous down there. You should really be careful. And then, you know, I'll say, like, when's the last time you were down there? Well, I've never been, but you know, for
They've
those
never
of us
been.
who have been,
Right.
we know what the hospitality of the Mexican people is like. Yeah, can you get in trouble in Mexico? Yes, of course you can.
Oh,
you know,
you
can
get
a
in
bad
trouble
thing
anywhere.
happen to me in Mexico? Yeah, but what are the chances if you stay out of bad areas? I've never had it, and I've been going 50 years. Not had a problem.
It seems to me that the if there were problems, they always occurred in Baja Norte. And the minute you got to Baja Sur, it was totally different. The areas going through Tijuana and Ensenada, they'd see you, and what I finally did is I went and wrote a letter, and I had somebody that spoke Spanish translate it, and it basically said, this is with Vagabundos del Mar.
Yeah.
My wife and I are here visiting your beautiful country, enjoying it, and we enjoy fishing, and we enjoy the people, and we have no drugs and no guns, and thank you very much. And when they would pull us over at the checkpoints and they wanted to look, say here, they'd read it and get this big old grin like, wow, and just
give them a
no
Coke.
issues.
Yeah.
That's great.
So snack.
We pulled up to one of those Federale checkpoints. One, my wife's from Costa Rica, so I speak fluent Spanish.
Yeah.
And I think we were having a little tiff or something. So I said, hey, to the Federales, I go, can you put her in jail for I just need 4 hours. And she's like,
until she chills.
They're laughing their asses off. And, we're giving them Cokes and everything. I go, hey, I just need 4 hours. I'm going to go in Ensenada. I'll pick her up in 4 hours. She's
that's funny.
Just strangle me.
That's funny.
But they had a good sense of humor about it. So did she. And it was a lot of fun. So I think the fact that you can go down there and have such a wonderful time. And I even hang out in Baja Norte, Rosarito Beach, Ensenada.
Yes,
sure.
Tijuana is a wonderful city. There are some really bad parts of TJ. You get into North TJ, you're asking for trouble. But there has been, as a newspaper writer, there have been I remember an American was shot somewhere around Rosarito at one time. And I called Hugo Torres, who owns the Rosarito Beach Hotel, and he was the mayor of the city at the time. And I said, Hugo, what's going on with this? And, and he said, Felipe, give me an hour or two, please, before let's figure out. So yeah, it turned out the guy was buying drugs in the red light district.
Find out the real story.
And that kind of stuff's going to happen to you if you venture into those areas. But if you don't, you just have these great memories. That marlin memory with you wrestling that blue marlin that's bigger than your boat is an old man in the sea.
It really was. So the last couple trips, so we stopped driving down after many, many times, and we've flown to Cedros. We did that last year.
Oh, that's great too, huh?
For fun.
Yeah.
And then we flew to La Paz twice and stayed with Jonathan Roldan.
Oh, I love Jonathan.
We're going to go down for my birthday in October and fish with that group. And
that's great. This October you're going again?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We were going to go last year, and COVID killed everything.
Yeah.
And so we just rolled it over to this year.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that.
What's your favorite part of Mexico to fish, or do you have many?
I have many.
Yeah.
Bay of LA.
It's beautiful there, isn't it?
I love.
Do you guys know Bill Boyce?
Sure.
The photographer?
Oh,
He
sure.
lives down there.
Oh,
Okay, yeah.
Sure.
Bill and our friends Chris Wheaton's got a place
Yeah.
down there. They just went down there recently. Chris went to Gonzaga Bay.
Yeah.
You saw the big grouper.
That's
that
another
he caught.
beautiful
Oh my
place. Yeah.
gosh. He's
So-
trying to catch a record down there, the Gulf groupers. But
Valerie, do you like the fishing or the culture or the food or all of it? It's just,
I love all of it.
Yeah.
I love all of it. I just love going down there. I mean, we'd fish from sun up to sundown. I mean, but the best part was in the morning when you get out and you climb out of bed and you go and stand on the beach, and the bay is calm.
It has a different vibe to it, doesn't
It
it?
does have a different
Beautiful.
vibe. We just watched. Matter of fact, we just watched. I had a VHS tape that I had converted into a DVD
Oh, I was going to say a VHS.
of
thing.
us at in Bay of LA.
Yeah.
And it just so many flashbacks and good memories of that. But the best part was, like the Bay of LA is so much life. We actually jumped in the water and swam with 7 whale sharks.
Oh, how cool is that?
Back then, when it was
Pictures of
allowed to
us.
hold onto the dorsal fin and ride them and all the above. And
That was in the Bay of LA?
Yeah.
Oh,
at the
wow.
bottom
The
end of the
south
bay,
part of the
they were
bay.
feeding on
Beautiful.
plankton. And we'll never see that again. And how many people have that opportunity to even have that
We have
kind of
pictures
experience.
out of the boat like this.
So we've been very fortunate, to see those kind of things and be there and witness all that and its beauty and its fishery. And now I miss it. Can we go? Let's go.
Let's go.
Start
I'm ready.
Start the car.
Can we cut this, Steve? I'm ready. I mean, just talking about my favorite subject in the world.
Right?
Long
Yeah.
drives. We're used to the long drives.
Oh, they were long though.
Going across Fiscano Desert.
I'm cool with
it's
that.
like it's just the other thing was the playing hooky with the ABC. We would joke about the buses. They drive in the middle of the road all the time. We'd see them coming. I mean, our rigs.
Oh, I know.
It's like
The hill of
okay,
Santa, right before you get into
okay.
Santa Rosalia, they'd come around that corner.
Oh, the Santa Rosalia grade. The first time I went down that, I thought we were going to lose the whole rig. I had no idea if the brakes would even hold it.
That's
going down
crazy.
guys
Crazy
passing
hill.
on the blind curves
Yeah.
and but
There's
once
a
you
lot of
got
people
there,
down there
it was a
do
white
some
knuckle.
foolish things, like
Sure.
like me. My kids, you know that you're out of control when your 16-year-old son is saying, "Dad, Dad, 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 slow down."
yes,
I actually was driving one time, and I had a truck driver play chicken with me,
Really?
and I thought, am I really seeing this? I mean, he drove right up where and then pulled over on the other lane.
That's hilarious.
But he was so close that I could almost, I saw the gold in
You
his
could see
teeth,
his gold
and I
teeth.
could feel the hair on his arm, and he was that close.
I can tell you that a Suburban will shut off at 110 miles an hour because
jeez.
yeah.
oh my god,
My kids are like my wife and everybody. My wife, Ruth, she's from Costa Rica, so I'm like, you're gonna love the peninsula, blah blah blah. Like 20 minutes into the trip, she takes a towel and throws it over her head, and then just like goes, and I'm like,
she was bored.
hey, are you gonna look at this? And she's cansado,
Bored to death. Oh god,
There's a lot for wives that do that don't fish, to go down there, relax, have a margarita.
She loves
sit
all
by.
that. Yeah, she doesn't like the fishing
It's
part of it,
wonderful.
but-
R&R place.
Yeah,
for
that's
people
great.
that-
There's so much more to do. Do you guys do other things while you're down there besides fishing? Do you ever go and check out the missions or do any of that stuff? Or
not
you
as
pretty much
not
keyed
as
in on the
not
fish?
as much. Pretty much, mostly it was because we had a rig with a boat on the back, and a lot of the places weren't accessible. You could get down a road. One time in Mulegé, we started down the road thinking we were going somewhere. And we were on top of the mountain at a dead end road.
Oh my! You had to back
I had
out or
to
what?
back down.
I'm back,
Okay.
hey, back her up, Charlie.
But I do like
Three.
the fact that you went down that road.
We were going to go
My hat's
find a
off to
new
you,
spot.
Tom.
Yeah, right. Oh gosh, live and learn on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so the fishing down there is just
Spectacular.
outstanding.
It
You're
is.
going in
It's-
October to La Paz. You're going to have
Yep.
You're
And,
gonna-
a variety.
There's-
That's when fishing's great.
and the other thing that when we first went down, we took lots and lots of tackle, and we went from 20-pound to 100-pound, and pretty much there's no reason to fish light line unless you're just a purist. 40-pound is light line.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
make bait with 40-pound, and if you're fishing yellowtail deep with jigs, put 80 on. Catch mackerel, drop it down on 100, never even stopped it.
Yeah, well, I know.
I mean, just
Yeah.
done. So it's exciting.
Do you ever fish Laredo?
We stayed in Tripui. We fished at Puerto Escondido and went out that south
A
area.
little south there.
Yeah, and we caught a lot of sailfish there and a lot of Dorado.
we
I
fished
love
the
that area.
Go for the Gold Dorado tournament with the Vagabundos.
Oh, there you
Del
go.
We did
Mar.
Yeah.
that one time.
That
I
was-
dropped down a big skipjack or something at Isla Catalina, which is down. It's
I
kind
know,
of
down
probably
below.
down that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Same thing. Couldn't stop this thing. Big ass grouper. I mean,
Oh, I
it
know.
just smoked me.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah. All right, let's circle back to
Yes.
Okay.
Southern California again,
Yes.
and let's talk about the Coastal Social, which is coming up on
I'm
April
excited,
24th.
yes.
Are you guys fishing in that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course.
Good, good.
Luckily, it fell on a date that we could fish it. It's not going to conflict with other things we're doing.
I
so.
think this show is going to be after the Coastal Social. So what we can do is we can make predictions about who's going to win, and then people will
Oh,
be able
that'll
to
be
listen
fun.
to this and say, "Whoa, Valerie nailed it," or "Tom
yeah.
nailed it."
Thanks for having faith
We don't
in me,
know
guys.
who the competitors are.
Oh well, Jimmy Decker's in. I do know that.
Uh-huh.
And
he and Eric
Benny
fished
Florentino,
together. Benny's
my
in.
2 kids.
I think
with
it'll bring
Scott
in.
Buchert.
I think
Steve's
it'll.
in.
I think it'll bring in a lot of new faces that we haven't
I'll
seen.
Yeah, I
tell you
think
what
so.
we don't know is what are the boundaries? Do you
Because
know?
it's
Is
for
it
a good
Point Fermin and
cause.
There are no
Newport?
boundaries.
There are no boundaries.
Yeah, no
I mean,
boundaries.
The
including
only boundary is that you have to be back at this dock by 3 p.m. That's the only.
you could go to the islands if you want.
Yeah, you can go to the islands.
Oh,
Yeah, there's no boundaries,
Oh.
right? Yeah. So like Steve said,
Oh.
you got to be back by 3 o'clock.
sure,
So you can go wherever you want to go.
sure.
Yeah.
And it's lines in the water at 6.
6.
Honor system. So you could go the night before and anchor at the isthmus and
Oh,
start
so
fishing
you-
at 6.
You don't have to check in here in the morning? Oh, no way.
Everything's going to be communicated via radio, via VHF,
Yep.
honor system.
Right.
Lines in at 6 a.m.
See, we haven't gotten the full details. So that's good to know.
fish.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
right.
Yeah, 3 fish, 3 people max on the boat.
You know, this honor system, not a good idea with my kids in the tournament. No, I wouldn't. Now they're going to be out 2 days ahead of time at the wall, sacking up big calico bass.
Yeah.
You're going to watch those 2 kids,
Oh my goodness,
Okay.
yeah.
So what's going to win it? Will it be calico bass, sand bass?
Oh,
What would you if you had? to
I'm
say?
anticipating big sand bass.
Really?
Deep water sand bass.
Yeah.
me too.
Is that what you're going to focus on?
Well, we're gonna look for
pre-fish a
them.
couple times. I have a sand bass story information for people that they'll appreciate this.
Let's hear it.
We had a fellow in our fishing club for 20 years. He fished Newport Harbor and kept a logbook. And he did what he called power drifting. Basically, he just would put a grub down or something down and slowly go through the main channel. And he's got all of his records. And he came and talked to the club one day about what he did and how he did. Sometime around June 1st, 2nd, 3rd, something in the very first week of June, he was catching sand bass every day until then. And on June 6th, there were none. And there were none at all for him for the rest of the summer. Well, that told me that sometime around that time,
The water got too warm.
those fish leave to spawn.
Uh-huh.
And I think that they would go from Newport maybe up to the Huntington Flats where there used to be millions, which
Right.
there aren't anymore.
Right. Correct.
We haven't seen those
so
days in a
lot
long
of
time.
No.
It appears
No.
that the sand bass have a tendency to go out to spawn. I'm just saying that maybe the month of June, something
Okay.
like
Some
that.
of this is conjecture,
Some
but
of
it
that-
makes sense. And
Yes.
this guy took copious
And
notes.
he
it sounds
and
like.
he had a complete record, and I just was like, "Come on!" And he showed me. He said, I'd catch 10 or 15 sand bass a day, and I caught none, and none, and over years. So for us to say, okay, well, are the sand bass going to be around for this? Yeah, there was somebody caught 25 and a half pounds of sand bass in a tournament 2 weeks ago, in the howling wind here.
Wow.
We had a really tough.
Where
one.
was that?
That was out at here.
Long Beach.
That was when the SBS.
No, that wasn't 2 weeks ago.
And they caught the fish down south on some of the artificial reefs.
Okay. Down on Isers or somewhere
So
down that
down
way?
there, or that you could go from Newport Harbor to Point Furman.
Oh, okay. Right.
So
That was last
you
month.
don't know exactly, but yeah, 25-pound bag, and they were toads.
Yeah. And all artificials, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the conditions and weather conditions, oh my goodness.
So you have to
wind chop, it was horrible. But
you kind of have to juggle.
Yeah.
Is it the time coming back an hour and a half from Catalina where the wind could be blowing and kicking your butt on the way back,
Yeah.
versus the number of casts more you could make if you stayed local.
Right.
And everything changes.
And Tom, it sounds like the question is, from what you told and your friend who did all this research, it's not, is there going to be sand bass? It's, where are they going to be, right? Is that it?
My perception, after having looked at the register when I was working, I'd always go to that sports page where they used to give all the fish counts.
Yeah. Dave Strega used to write for that.
That's right. And
Good
you
friend of mine.
5,000 sand bass. I mean, you think back about it, it was slaughter.
Yeah.
They were out there, and the sport boats are anchored side by side out in front of Huntington every year. Try to catch one now like that.
Right.
They just don't appear to be showing up like that. I mean, they have a little spot of them every summer, but not like
Kind of like the
we had
barracuda
before.
bite used to be and
Yes.
is now.
I think that maybe the sand bass had a scenario that when they spawned years ago, all their little guys, they call it recruitment, didn't survive, and a whole generation or so of sand bass is gone,
Yeah.
and there's a gap. So I don't know. It's kind of like you can't just say, hey, we're going to run to Rocky Point and catch 8-pound calicos. You may run there and find the current and everything wrong.
Right, exactly.
And have wasted an hour and a half.
And that's where these tournaments,
Oh.
I mean, the time element, the crunch. If you
hear-
zig instead of zag, you're in trouble, right?
Right, but we hear a lot of guys that say, well, we didn't have a fish in the tank until like the last hour of the tournament. And then we just got into a flurry of fish and that we caught all of our fish in the last hour.
We hear it every
It's
tournament.
like-
Don't give up. That's the other thing is don't give
Don't
up.
give
Don't
up.
get
Keep
discouraged
trying,
because
yeah.
the last cast could be
Your
last
best
minute
cast.
heroics.
Yeah, right? Have you ever had that happen?
Yeah, we have.
It's such a great feeling.
Yeah.
Bottom of the ninth is always a great time, right?
I don't
yeah.
like the stress getting there, though. It's kind of like, can we just have 5 fish by 9 o'clock?
That's all we
and
want, is just have
relax for
5
a
fish in
while?
the tank, especially now fishing this time of the year. I mean, it's been really difficult with the cold winds and the water conditions and everything. All that's against us.
Yeah.
One of the things to consider also is Jerry runs the tournaments from January to the beginning of June. He's the guide. And so from the middle of June on, he's got customers and he's offshore and he's running around being a guide. So I'm going to use the word stuck. We're forced to fish in the worst 6 months of the year.
Yeah.
Okay, the water's, you got rain, you've got wind, you've got cold water. It adds one more level of difficulty as opposed to fishing in the fall or when conditions are beautiful.
I'm surprised somebody hasn't come along and started like a summer fall tournament.
Well,
to add to this or to,
because
you'd fish in it, right? You'd be all over that.
Well, we'd be in them. We fish a couple of charity tournaments and we'll fish anything that comes along. It's fun. But it does make it, and we always, we watch the weather, and it's like Friday night, crap, it's going to rain. Saturday, we're driving to San Diego in the rain. It's just, that's what foul weather gear is for.
Right.
It's not always beautiful out there.
Right. Valerie, we're talking big sand bass is going to win. Steve's taking notes, by the way, so be careful what you say. But big sand bass is going to win it. That's what we've come up with. How would you fish those big sand bass? What is your go-to rig, your go-to lure to catch a big sand bass?
Well, there's some variables involved again about the conditions.
Right. You can discuss that.
The current, wind. I mean, luckily, and if all was in the perfect world of having calm seas, the moon is out, everything is perfect, we would go and try to find deep structure.
Yeah.
Fish vertically, and and it's very important to watch your meter.
Yes.
Fish finder, and look to see where those fish are in the water column and try to target them. But, if you've got blowing winds and the current's ripping uphill or downhill, you've got to compensate and do other things.
Let's take a flat calm day. Let's talk about that, okay? You find those fish. You see that they're a little suspended. How do you fish them? What's a good lure? What's a good method to take those big sand bass?
Well, you can use anywhere, for swim bait, and then you can use even A-rigs. I mean,
does that work well on those things?
Right, using a little bit heavier lead heads on each arm of the A-rig, so you can get it down, let it sink a little bit more, but swim baits basically, and even using jigs or even anything, they have the chase baits, they have things, if the squid are out, use baits that look like squid.
Red crab.
Or red crab, you kind of have to figure out
what they're feeding on.
Yeah. I mean, the squid are out there right now, so I would tend to use, it's very important to use scent, we are using hot sauce. Ron Bueller of Edge Products keeps us well supplied with hot sauce. We love it. I mean, he started off making that stuff in his home, in his kitchen, until his wife threw him out and said, get somewhere else to make that stuff. You're stinking up the house. So, but we use it faithfully. And
you feel that gives you a big edge?
Yeah, lathered up, especially the night tournament coming up. I mean, they can't see it, but they're going to key in on that scent, keep things scented up, use things that vibrate, make noise, and things like that. So,
Tom?
I would fish, sand bass are pigs, and I would fish a bigger bait for them.
Bigger bait, bigger fish?
I mean,
you find that?
For sand bass specifically.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't go out there and say I'm going to downsize to 4-inch swim baits.
Right.
Although you never know. But 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces in anything that's like 75, 80 feet out to 120. You want something that gets down fast. The fish bite on this, and calicos too, they bite on the job. Drop it, give it a couple cranks, drop it, give it a couple cranks. Hope you don't get hooked up in the rocks. But a 7 or 8 inch swim bait is not uncommon. And in the summer, we find that we'll catch bigger ones more commonly well, we're sponsored by Corey Sandin. We use his Viejo series. He makes a 5.5 inch baits and he makes a 7 and 9.
When fish are more active, they will eat the bigger baits.
Yes.
But,
And you've already both mentioned that these fish live in bad neighborhoods,
Oh, boy.
right? So
boy.
how important is heavy line? Do you fish heavy?
Tournaments, we're looking for 5 big bites.
Right.
So for me, a light rig would be 50 to 30 fluorocarbon. A heavy rig would be 65 to 40. And I don't typically go over that. I mean, I could see fishing 50 if you're fishing on a wreck. If you literally were right smack dab on the pipes and portholes, and 50 or 60, I mean, you get bit, you better get them. So,
and when you get bit, you want to put the screws to that fish right now, right?
That's right. We very rarely fish loose drags. I'm going to have just enough so that it won't pop the braid or your connection or something. But pretty tight.
Yes, yeah,
Really tight.
because those fish, they come out of their little crevice sometimes and then zip right back in.
Yes, I swear the wall sometimes you'll get bit and you don't even have a chance to lift the rod tip and put a crank and you're done. Bam.
Yeah, they are.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, it is. And what's the biggest sand bass you've ever caught? Both of you.
Years ago I caught some toads. We were down, 4th of July, we went out in front of Huntington Pier 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And went out there, and it was 6:30 at night, and we found a little rock pile. We were waiting for the fireworks, and I dropped a bait down, and I got one that was 8.3, and oh my God.
That's a nice one.
And reeled it up, looked at it, let it go, dropped another one in the same place, and got an 8.8.
Wow.
Right there, just like that. So you just don't ever know. And I don't think we caught much other than that.
Man, that'd be 24-pound.
Oh, that would be giant.
Little 3 fish.
That would
you
be-
could pull that off on this
Yeah.
next coastal
She's
social, right?
She's got a 9.1 Calico off the wall. But this is in the days when
Beautiful.
we used to fish sardines
Yeah,
before tournaments.
yeah.
So, and another curious thing for folks is my 3 biggest calicos. I caught a huge calico at Catalina that I just have photographs of on my very first trip over there in 1989
Uh-huh.
on 12-pound mono,
Jeez.
a Silstar rod and reel that I bought at Walmart, Kmart.
You said it wasn't
Really?
Zepco.
1995. I had no idea what it was when it came to the boat. I thought I caught a grouper. I mean, it was a 28 or 29 inch fish. So
Wow.
that could have been a double digit.
Yeah.
And then I caught, on the wall, I caught my personal best one June morning with a friend of mine with a sardine on 15-pound that came out of the wall and ate it and couldn't go anywhere, committed suicide.
Wow.
And then I got an 8.8 at Crystal Cove on 20-pound mono.
Wow, those are
So
nice
those
fish.
are my 3 biggest calicos, and the point is they were all on mono. It gives a little bit, but if it's going to be in a place where it's going to be abraded,
That's the
20 is not
dilemma,
gonna
whether
do it.
you use
So,
mono or to use braid, because of the non-stretch.
Yes.
I mean, you want to be able to turn them around
You
and get them
mentioned
out.
fluorocarbon a minute ago. Do you
Sure.
fish your artificials with fluorocarbon?
always.
Oh,
You
yes.
do?
Yes.
Always.
Why?
Well,
You seem emphatic about
Well,
that. So I'm-
they're made with abrasion resistance.
Yes.
There are some full 100% fluorocarbon lines, and then there are some that are just mono. They're coated with fluorocarbon.
Yeah.
They're more abrasive than mono. They don't stretch as much as mono, and they sink. So
Fluorocarbon is made of a fluoropolymer, which lets natural light pass through the line, makes
Right,
it less visible.
right,
You
right,
know that.
Right.
Versus mono, it refracts light, so it makes it more visible. So that's
And-
why,
and-
especially in the tournaments.
and it is. I'll tell you what's the pain in the neck is making the connection.
Yeah.
When you lose your connection or you need to retie, you're not putting 25 yards on like they do in fresh water
Right.
or a whole spool
Short
full.
leaders.
You got to go stop, take yourself 5 feet, retie your connection, retie your bait, and start over. There's 5 minutes worth of fishing time. Now, if it's night, it's even worse.
Does Benny Florentino have some kind of a thing that we have on our website to facilitate that, Steve?
The kicker quick clips.
That little, I know the little quick clip,
Yeah.
but it doesn't retie your knot. It
Right.
doesn't retie
Oh,
your
okay.
connection.
So you
That's
gotta
just
do
switch
that.
out lures.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right.
But-
So yeah, and that's when time is super valuable, right?
But
5
Thomas
minutes
found
can
out
screw you.
he lost a good fish one time when the fish spun,
I lost
and that
a
clip
big spot
came undone.
on one of those clips, and I don't know what to say about it. I got 2 packages for Christmas, and I had it on there. What a great deal! I was on a crankbait, and that spotty hit it on a crankbait, spun, and it spun that clip open. It came back, and it was perfect. The crankbait was gone, and the fish was gone.
Oh.
And you look at it, you say, how in the world could that happen? I had it on right. It managed to lever that little lever deal, lever it and come off.
What a
that's-
smart little fish.
All that spinning just worked.
Yeah.
its
She
off.
saw my face. I was like, there's one, get the net.
What
And
just happened?
what
Yeah.
just happened? And that was it.
Wow.
That thing came apart. True story.
Who's
I mean,
gonna,
they're great for
San
quick
Diego
changing
Bay.
lures, but
who's going to win the Coastal Social? Are you guys going to win? I wonder if
Of
some
course.
confidence out of
No,
you.
sure, we always try to win.
of course.
Yeah.
There's now that it's wide open.
Yeah, where
come-
are you going to fish?
Hey, for I don't know yet
Yeah.
because it's going to depend. We're going to have to go out and take a look at the water, and I don't know that we're going to make a long run. There was a team I recall as an example of what you're up against in a Dana Point tournament years ago that went from Dana Point to Point Doom. Okay, one way.
Oh.
Because they got a spot where they were getting
They
bit.
maybe had 1 hour to fish once they got
Oh,
up there. I mean,
wow.
it was crazy.
And I think they got back late by a couple minutes.
Oh.
Which, you know, it
Were
was-
they disqualified?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't. Can't, yeah, bad. But I mean, come on, that's like 70 miles on the water one way.
Oh, that's
So-
brutal.
I mean, we get people that come in, new faces, don't know anything about them. They're very quiet. They're very reserved. They get in the boat and they come back and slam the tournament. They just win.
yeah.
Sure.
We have a team that, we always rib them, because they've done very well. And this their first year. Did they fish with us last year? I don't remember.
Who's that?
Asif.
Oh, the Asif brothers.
Asif brothers.
This is their second year
Yeah,
fishing. A
second
couple of
year.
guys that came from the freshwater circuit. They
Uh-huh.
have a little blue 16-foot bass
Low
boat.
profile bass
about
boat.
About a 1972 boat. And they fish very deliberately, and they're
Great
like
sticks.
50, 60 years old. Phew, they're coming in with good quality weights every time.
That's fantastic. You know what?
So you never know who's going to win.
I can't believe how fast the time is flying. We have a few minutes left, is all. And I want to talk about your. I know. I want to talk about your charity work. You do a lot of charity stuff, right?
Well, our biggest charity that we worked with, that we were involved with, was Olive Crest, which was basically it started out with SWBA, and we started small, and thing just grew and grew and grew. And we
So
have
for people that do not know what Olive Crest is, what is it?
Olive Crest is for at-risk children. It's a foundation that works with children and families that need guidance and help, and they take children, they educate them, they guide them into a job, careers,
There's a big home in Santa Ana.
big
Yes.
home in Santa Ana, and so we started working with the businesses in the food industry that were willing to come out and fish. We set up a tournament, and they'd fish for 4 hours, and they have a tiered process of what they wanted to pay. There would be a silver, a platinum, gold,
Big dollars.
big
Yeah,
dollars,
yeah.
to donate to fish for 4 hours, basically. And captains of our boats from SWBA and people that we basically knew, Benny, all of those guys,
Yeah.
would donate their time to come and take these people out fishing. And then we'd come back and have a big, event at the Long Beach Yacht Club, basically where we had it and had a weigh-in and prizes and silent auction where we would, take donated items and bid it and be able to make money. And we've actually raised money as high as over 250,000,
Wow.
230,000 for Olive
Fantastic.
Crest. And it
Several
goes for a good
times.
cause, and everybody who's wanting to do that. We got set back with COVID for the last couple of years. We
Right.
haven't had it in the last
Right.
2 years. So we don't really know if that's on the back burner waiting to happen again.
Hopefully, yeah.
Right now, it's kind of questionable where we're going to go with that.
These folks come out from everywhere. For example, Tyson Farms Chicken.
Yeah.
They send 4 guys out. They come out, they get a write-off because they're going to this thing. These guys come out, have a 3-day vacation in Southern California. They get to fish in this. They get a breakfast. They get a lunch on board. They get a beautiful dinner at the Long Beach Yacht Club. All kinds of stuff to win. And they get to fish with us and get their pictures taken and have a time in Southern California.
That's wonderful.
So they
It's
were.
a win-win deal.
Oh, it was wonderful. Yeah. So they, Olive Crest is a home that our Fibbers, our Christian fishing club, has been supporting Olive Crest kids, taking them on the Amigo, for instance,
Right.
on half-day trips for 30 years.
Wow.
And Kids of Rollo, you were involved
That's
with
great.
the Kids of Rollo.
Before anybody ever did this tournament stuff.
Yes.
And so the kids would show up with their a sponsor, and they had vans, and they'd bring 10 or 12. They'd come down to the boat, and we'd take them out, and I arranged to get usually a cheeseburger and a Coke, help the kids. The adults don't really fish, the kids fish, and then prizes, goodie bags and prizes. But the curious thing was they always wanted to keep their fish.
Uh-huh.
So they would catch a mackerel or a bass or whatever it was. They want to keep the fish, so the crew would fillet it, give them their little bag.
Sure.
and they marched out of
They
there.
want to take something home to show mom
Well,
or dad or whoever.
There's the caveat. They would go home to the home, and they take their little bag of fish and put it in their dresser drawer.
Oh, nice.
Or backpacks.
Or
Leave it.
A couple weeks later, that was
Or
lovely.
forget that they even had it, and then it was kind of like sooner or later they said to us,
That's
"Let's just
not the kind
do
of
it."
memoir you
Bring
wanna
back.
keep.
Believe me, I know. Hey, I took a mackerel and shoved it in a guy's tackle box once below
you
at the
mean.
end of the trip, and I forgot about it. And
Oh,
like
no.
2 weeks later, he goes,
Right?
"There is this
the worst.
awful swell. My sister and I have emptied the entire apartment. We cannot find the origin of this."
Oh my God! It's true.
Oh, shoot. It's that freaking mackerel I put in his tackle
Right?
box.
Oh,
It
I know.
was. Yeah, I know what that's like.
Or when you put anchovies down your friend's grill.
I didn't do it.
Air conditioner?
I went to
Tom is an
I went
angel.
to a wedding one time when some and I barely knew the guy, to tell you the truth, but it was a friend of a friend. His 4 buddies took anchovies and put them like on his manifold and in places, and he had a brand new truck that his in-laws bought them. They were moving to Colorado.
That's freaking great.
They put anchovies into the heater ducts.
Oh no!
And
They couldn't get it out.
And you know how a pickup truck has a square tubes to put sideboards on, all the way down? They dropped them down. Well, so they left and they got half the way to Colorado and the heater was on because it was winter. Like, what in the world? It ruined their truck. They ended up having to get rid of the
Not
truck.
funny, eh? Oh my god!
I mean, the guy
that's
ruined it,
hilarious.
couldn't get the smell out.
I ruined my mother's LTD by throwing albacore in the trunk and driving it backwards. Yeah, it was brutal. Hey, so we've come to the end.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
gosh, okay.
I'm very sorry, but have anything you want to say about a sponsor we haven't mentioned? Anything? Well, let's just finish it like this. Valerie, what do you want to say in
We love all of
conclusion?
our sponsors. I mean, I can't.
You
I
want
just.
to mention them?
I
You're
kind of
more
looked at.
welcome.
We've been with Corey Sandin with MC Swim Baits for 15 years.
Wow.
I mean, we met Corey. We were fishing his prototypes in our tournaments.
Yes.
Basically, from fishing in the tournaments, people have approached us because we're a husband and wife team, and we're fishing these tournaments. We're on social media and so forth. And Costa, a lot of these people approach us. Costa was Carl Erbacher approached us and said, "We want to establish some connections out here, some West Coast saltwater bass anglers out here, because they're back in Florida." So they want to start establishing some teams out here on
Yeah.
the West Coast. And that's where we came in and hooked up with them. And we've been with them for almost, 9 years.
Wow,
maybe.
that's great.
And then
Tom?
Seeker Fishing Rod,
Yes.
they approached us 4 or 5 years ago when Darren Dohe was the general
Yes,
manager.
I know Darren.
And said, "Hey, we're interested in getting some teams to represent Seeker," and so we signed up with them, and they actually were nice enough in their early days to pay some of our entry fees. We've never had anybody pay the entry fees. It's always been in our own nickel.
Yeah.
That was
Well, then there were new owners that came in and they said, we can't support that. We're trying to run a business here. But so we fish for folks that are beginners, the Inshore Pro Series, which is their Seekers. They make a 708, a 709, an 809. They're graphite.
Corey Sandin helped Seeker
and he's
design
got Corey
those
Sandin
rods.
Seekers names
Cool.
on
But
there.
rips, they're lighter than the Blue Lightning rods that
Yes.
were out before.
It's a little bit softer tip so that you don't rip that bait out of their face, and they latch on it longer. So we fish those rods, and then we get hot sauce from Ron Bueller and Iserline
love
from
him.
Wendy.
Perfect.
We get some Iserline from them and fish their Triple X. The Iserline Triple X is a copolymer smoke color. It's the line to use, in my opinion.
All right. Well, good stuff, Valerie.
Thanks for
Tom?
having us.
Yes.
You guys are
We
great.
enjoyed it.
Yes, we can.
Lovely to have you.
You
here.
need to have
Wish
us
we had more
back.
time.
I know.
But I
So
know.
way
We
too fast.
can. Yeah, we have a lot more good stuff.
We'll just have to have you back again.
We'd be privileged.
All right. Hey, thanks everybody. Friedman Adventures. Once again, subscribe, hit that little bell so you'll get a notification. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and Freshwater Bass Bros, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Valerie or Tom,
Good
Valerie.
Good show.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thanks, everybody.
That was fun.